Good afternoon, Project Planner Adam Ross. If you can do a mic check for me in 1 second.
Mic check.
Loud and clear, thank you.
Thank you.
And again, Project Planner Ross, we will promote you to a panelist once your item is called. Thanks. All right, planning commissioners, if you can please start turning on your cameras, just make sure they're all working right before we start. And Chair Cisco, staff is ready when you are.
Okay. With that, I'm not there. Where am I? Okay. I'm not visible, but I'm going to call our meeting to order of tonight's City of Santa Rosa Planning Commission and read this statement. Due to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Orders N-25-20 and N-29-20, which suspend certain requirements of the Brown Act and the order of the health officer of the County of Sonoma to shelter in place to minimize the spread of COVID-19. The Planning Commissioners will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom webinar. Commissioners and staff are participating from remote locations and or practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak during item 4, public comment, or during our public hearing items will be able to do so by raising their hand and will be given the ability to address the commission. So with that, I am going to ask the recording secretary to take our roll call.
No problem. Really change this there. We need to be able to see you, so if we might have to turn off your background.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. I keep putting the video on, but it's not going on. I am here. Somewhere.
So I would press next to the start stop video, there's a little arrow pointing up. Click on that arrow and you can turn off the virtual background.
Okay. Do I hit screen? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I'm not there.
An option might be to go out and come back in. Sometimes that works.
You okay
Definitely
with
an
that?
option. You can also, next to the start video, that little arrow, you can click on video settings. You might have to set the correct video camera that's attached to your computer. Are you on your iPad?
I am.
And I would, yeah, turn off your your virtual background. If you choose virtual background, you can click no or none.
Oh, okay.
Oh, looks like your camera might need to be turned around.
Okay. Ah,
There we
that
go.
did.
All
Okay.
right, now you can turn your virtual background back on. That was a problem. The camera was flipped. iPads can do that sometimes.
Let's not mess with me anymore. I'm good.
All right, we'll
Okay.
go forward. Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present. Thank you.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll move to the approval of our September 24th minutes. Any comments or corrections on those? Not seeing any, those will stand as printed. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to public comments, which is a time for any member of the public to address the commission on matters of interest to the commission. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, you will push your raise hand button. Hopefully you're better at all this than I am. And if you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. A little countdown timer will appear, and it will tell you when your 3 minutes are up. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open public comment and ask our host if there's anybody waiting to speak to us.
At this time, we have no one raising their hands. I do want it to be noted that we have a couple people calling in by phone,
Okay.
but at this time, no one is raising their hands.
Okay. And do we need to wait for the phone calls to come through?
Chair Cisco, I think if they show up on the attendee list, that the phone call has already come through, and at that point we just wait for them to raise their hands.
Okay.
And yeah, we don't see any raised hands.
Okay, so I can go ahead and close public comment then. And so with that, I will close public comment, and we will move on to Planning Commissioners report. Any reports tonight from our commissioners? Okay, not seeing any. We will move on to department reports. Any? Mr. Rose.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Cisco and members of the commission. It's nice to see you all. Just a couple of department reports. First, I'd like to give an update on some of the things that the city's been doing in regard to the recent glass fire. So the city did activate its emergency operations center. It was up and running right at the outset, provided assistance to people during the event. The EOC is still functional, still operational. However, most of the staff have transitioned either to working remotely or in the field. So some of the things to that end that the city is working on are some of the re-entry and supply stations. So as people start to go back into the areas, they are given some supplies to assist in that effort. And then also the local assistance center. Some of you may recall city, in addition to and in coordination with a number of other public agencies and different entities, they put together the local assistance center where people can go and talk to city staff, county staff, Department of Motor Vehicles, anything that you would need in the tragic event that your house was destroyed in a fire, to start to piece back together what you need. So the city is participating in that. It's being held at Maria Carrillo High School. So we've had a rotating shift of different staff members there, and that will go on here for a few more days. It'll be open during the weekend as well. Also related to the fire event, the city, much like 2017, is preparing an urgency ordinance. This is slated to go to the City Council on October 27th, and it's for the intent purpose of helping people with an expedited rebuild effort. So it'll look to do much of the same things that the city did back in 2017 to help with people to be able to rapidly rebuild. A couple of policy plan updates. So the downtown plan is moving forward. It'll go to the City Council on Tuesday. So that's a pretty big day for all of us. I want to thank you all for your help on that. In addition to that, the zoning and design guidelines, which is kind of the second part of that downtown plan update, those will be going to the Design Review Board and the Cultural Heritage Board on October 15th. That's for the design guidelines update. And then it'll go to the rezoning, will go to the Planning Commission on October 22nd. And then together those will go to the City Council on November 17th. So that's kind of truly the final stage of the downtown plan update. I also wanted to give you an update on the Resilient City Initiatives amendments. So our Resilient City, this is the citywide Resilient City measures. Those are slated for essentially an extension and an update. And we're also looking at including some economic development measures within that plan. And that's scheduled to come to the Planning Commission on October 22nd, and then slated for the City Council on November 17th. And then also on October 22nd, it's going to be a fairly full agenda for the Planning Commission. We will also have a conditional use permit and a plan development rezoning for a retail drive-through establishment. And then there's the fall 2020 general plan amendment package. So as the commission may recall, when we have the general plan amendments they come as a group. And so we'll have several that'll form that package. They'll come to the commission on the 22nd, and then shortly thereafter, they'll go to the City Council for final action. So we'll make sure on that night, Andrew will work with Chair Cisco to ensure that meeting has scheduled breaks, and so it can be a more pleasant experience, because we do have, like I said, quite a few items that night. So with that, I will turn it over to Andrew for a few additional updates.
Great, thank you, Bill, and good afternoon, Chair Cisco and members of the Planning Commission. I've just got a few kind of looking forward towards the year's end, perhaps, is kind of how to think about my comments. We do have an outreach workshop for boards, commissions, and committees on October 20th. That was rescheduled from just a couple of days ago as a result of the glass fire emergency. Chair Cisco and Vice Chair Weeks will be participating in that outreach workshop. And then looking forward, as Bill mentioned, we do have full meetings on October 22nd and November 12th. We will not have a meeting on November 26th. That's Thanksgiving, of course. And we don't anticipate scheduling an additional special meeting during the month of November. So you can plan on November 12th being the only meeting in November. Then looking forward to December, we do anticipate having items for the meeting on December 10th. But then the second meeting on December 24th would be canceled. And at this point in time, it's unclear if there would be a need for a special meeting in November. So do we have any questions, any requests for clarification?
Any questions for Vice Chair Weeks?
Sure.
Actually, I wanted to address this to the comments that Bill made about the LAC, and I just wanted to tell you that I've heard nothing but glowing reports on both you, Bill, and your staff, and the help that you've given to people who have come in and are very devastated and rightfully confused. And so I just wanted to publicly acknowledge I've heard really glowing reports. So thank you for all that you guys do. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Weeks, for the very kind words. It's one of the most emotional experiences, but also probably one of the most satisfying experiences I think that a public servant can do. So it's been my pleasure to be part of that.
Great. Anything else from our department report? I just wanted to add in a comment that if you haven't already done so, on the city's website, there is a survey to take regarding application distribution of the PG&E settlement funds. And so I know our mayor really wants us to participate in putting forth our opinions on how that settlement gets distributed. So if you would take that survey, that would be great. Anything else? Okay. Then with that, we'll go ahead and move on to statements of abstention by commissioners. Any abstentions tonight? No, that's good. We have no study session nor consent items tonight. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to our public hearing tonight, which is item 10.1, the Soulful Dispensary Conditional Use Permit. It is an ex parte disclosure. Commissioner Duggan, anything to disclose?
I visited the site and watched the video that came through yesterday, and got a voicemail from the applicant's representative, but no additional information.
Okay. Commissioner Peterson.
I visited the site, watched the video, and had a very brief conversation with the applicant's representative, and have no new non-public information to disclose.
Commissioner Carter.
I also visited the site and viewed the video supplied by the applicant. Other than that, I have nothing to disclose.
Commissioner O'Krepke.
I had a conversation with the representative of the applicant and viewed the video, and I have nothing further to disclose.
Commissioner Kalia.
I visited the site. I also reviewed the video and did get a voicemail from the applicant's representative and have no further information.
Everybody's moved around. Vice Chair Weeks.
I visited the site, watched the video, and had also a voicemail from the representative, applicant's representative, but we weren't able to connect, and I have no new information. Thank you.
Okay. I also visited the site, watched the video, and had an extremely brief conversation with the applicant's representative. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to the item. Presenting planner is Mr. Adam Ross, who we actually, I think, get to see tonight. So good to see you.
Thank you, Chair Cisco, and members of the commission. It's good to see you as well. And I hope that I am presentable. It's been a while.
You're looking good.
Thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then I'll stop sharing my video while I do the presentation, and then turn my screen back on, or I'm sorry, my video back on to answer any questions you may have. Can you just confirm that you could see this, the presentation? Thank you.
We can, and we can see you down in the corner. So now we can't. Now we have the screen presentation. Great.
Okay, great. Okay, so the item before you tonight is Soulful Dispensary, file number CUP 19-052. located at 755 Farmers Lane in Suite 140. I am interim senior planner Adam Ross. It's again a conditional use permit to allow a retail cannabis dispensary with delivery on an existing, within an existing 1,665 square foot suite. It's on the first floor of a mixed use building. As you can see, the two orange dots kind of locate where the suite is. The hours of operation and delivery services are from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week in accordance with what is allowed within the zoning code. The project site is across the street from Montgomery Village off Farmers Lane in the northeast quadrant. I guess it's right in the section where you'd say northeast quadrant of the city. And as you can see, there's patio court to the south and residential neighborhoods to the west. The general plan and zoning is commercial office, and the general plan is office. So that's allowed within the commercial office zoning district. Cannabis retail dispensaries are allowed via conditional use permit. While it's not specifically stated in the general plan, it is the general plan does allow for uses of similar intensities, and that's mostly because the general plan was updated before the cannabis ordinance was adopted by the city. A bit of the project history. It was submitted on June 3rd, 2019. Notice of application was sent. Response was to that incomplete letter was sent back to staff. We have a deemed application. That is a typo. It wasn't. Oh, I'm sorry. So it was deemed complete, but there were issues. So during that time, all of the issues were worked out with the applicant team and planning staff. And then on August 27th was when everything was finalized. The site plan is as shown. There's the entrance off of Farmers Lane. All the parking is located behind the building. The entrance is facing Farmers Lane. There is a lobby to walk through the back area to get to Farmers Lane and then down through the front entrance. And then the floor plan includes a waiting room, dispensary area for the retail area, I should say, storage, and then break room and restroom for employees. So here's the existing elevation, 755 Farmers. Again, it is notated with the orange dots on the left of your screen. So parking and traffic associated with this site. So this is the parking. So under zoning code section 20-36.050A, it allows a 50% reduction of required parking for either residential or retail spaces, whichever is smaller, or up to 75% for residential and office space, whichever is smaller. Basically what that is referring to is a mixed use project. So this is a mixed use development from I think 2005 to 2007. So you have residential above, multifamily units above, and then a mix of commercial and office space below. So the code allows for a set number or a reduction on whichever of the two is smaller. In this case, the commercial and retail space is less than the requirement of the multifamily units above. So with that, you see the breakdown here. These give like 6.7, so a fractional number. It should be known that any number that is 0.5 or above should be rounded up to the next number. Anything under 0.5 is rounded down to that number. But either way, the 43 spaces is required and supplied on the site. So so with that, the parking is sufficient for the site as a whole, including this cannabis dispensary use. And I should state that the notice did include a parking reduction in it, and in actuality that there is no parking reduction required. So everything on site is to code per the requirement of the parking standards of the zoning code. So the trip rate is 32 p.m. peak hour trips. Anything over 50 would require a focused traffic study or a traffic impact analysis. Involved in this submittal was also a focused traffic study to kind of cover things other than just the trip generation. That includes site distance, and in that study by W-Trans, they found that the site distance was adequate. The collisions, there was I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but some of the concerns were about the collisions and traffic of the area and parking. In that traffic study, there was a review of collisions in this area, and it was less than the average per capita of a similar site. And it was noted that none of the collisions coming in were involved with ingress and egress to this site. So here is the public comments received. None were received after the noticing of this project. But again, those were parking, traffic, collisions from entering and exiting the site, and the proximity to the school. So again, the parking is adequate per code. It's provided on site with the reduction revolving around the uses on the uses on the site. So there's enough for the retail dispensary, as well as there's a yogurt time, and then a rug sales, and I think a small office is there. And then as well as the multifamily above. The traffic showed that there is no impact with this project to the site, and that there were no collisions involved with entering and exiting the site. And the proximity to the school is as the crow flies 750 feet, which is greater than the 600 separation requirement. I do want to note that in the resolution, staff would like to propose a condition requiring that any signs within 1,000 square feet of a school are prohibited. And I have that written, and we will supply it for you shortly. I can't really see it in front of me because my screen is full. And then additional public comments. I just wanted to note that 3 of those so there's 4 letters included in the applicant or in the public correspondence with this project. 2 are from the same individual, and they were opposed to the project based on the 4 bullets that I noted before. The staff also received about 8 letters who are proponents for the project. Not so much they don't specify the location, but that their other existing location in Sebastopol they have a good neighbor policy, and they provided more security to the site, and they've had no issues with them whatsoever. The environmental review for this project, so it's subject to a Class 1 categorical exemption, which it involves minor modifications to an existing facility, and then a Class 3, which involves a change in use, and then a Class 32, which is infill. And with that, the recommendation to the Planning and Economic Development Department is that the Planning Commission, by resolution, approve a conditional use permit for a retail cannabis dispensary with delivery for the property located at 755 Farmers Lane, Suite 140. And with that, I will exit and stop share.
Okay, any questions for staff right now? Yeah, Commissioner Peterson.
I hope I'm not jumping the gun. Can you explain the signage condition reasoning in a little bit more detail, and specifically compared to, say, the dispensary that was put in on Sonoma Avenue near the French American Charter School?
Yeah, so I could pull up the specific zoning code, but in simpler terms, anything within 1,000 feet of a school of K through 12. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm getting a note here saying that there is no different. This is just to clarify for the record. And that condition of approval will apply either way, whether it's there or not. And if you'd like, I could read into the record whenever it's appropriate. And I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that does.
Any other questions of staff before we move on to the applicant? Nope. Okay. Mr. Ross, is the applicant going to be here to present, or?
So they will be presenting with words, no PowerPoint. I can assist them with anything, any of the images that I have if need be.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the applicant.
Thank you, Chair Cisco. This is Nick Caston, applicant's representative. Want to commend interim senior planner Adam Ross for his presentation. It was thorough and accurate. I want to say that we took the public comments very seriously. All the letters that you saw were received prior to or at our neighborhood applicant meeting. As response to those comments, we expanded our traffic study to specifically look at the issue of traffic in the area, and you saw the results of that both in this staff report, the traffic study, and from Adam Ross's presentation. And I do want to say we do support including the sign prohibition language in the conditions of approval. Our understanding is it's consistent with the zoning code. With assurances that it's consistent, we see no issues with including it in the CUP for clarity. With that, I never like to add on to a very thorough and excellent presentation, so we'll be available for any questions. I have Eli Melrod, who's the CEO and co-founder of Soulful, with me, as well as Cameron Nye, an engineer from WTrans. So we're available to the commission for any questions you have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Caston. Any questions from the applicant right now before we move on to the public hearing? I'm not seeing any. Okay, so with that, this is a public hearing tonight. Again, if you are joining us by Zoom, you press your raise hand button. If you're calling in by phone, you'll dial *9. That allows you to raise your hand. You have 3 minutes. A little timer will show on the screen to count down your 3 minutes once you're recognized by the host. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open our public hearing and ask the host if we have anybody wanting to appear.
Okay, Chair Cisco, so far no raised hands.
Okay, let's give that about another minute and see if anyone shows up, and then we'll go on.
Okay. Okay, this is the host. If any attendees would like to do a public comment, if you could raise your hand and then we could call on you. Chair Cisco, no, still no raised hands.
Okay, great. Thank you. So with that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, any other questions of either the applicant or staff? Okay. Before we read the resolution, Mr. Ross, would you like to tell us where that language will be inserted on the resolution so we can cite that?
Yes, it would replace condition of approval 14B under signs, and it will read as obtain a sign permit prior to installation of any signs in accordance with zoning code section 20-46.080 F10, advertising or marketing cannabis or cannabis products on an advertising sign within 1,000 feet of a daycare center, school providing instruction in kindergarten or grades 1 through 12, playground or youth center is prohibited.
Okay, great. So with that, would someone like to move our resolution for the purposes of discussion? And I think it's safe to just cite the modification to 14B as read by Senior Planner Ross. You know, so we don't have to repeat it. So would somebody like to read the resolution? Commissioner Duggan.
I'll move a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Rosa making findings and determinations and approving a conditional use permit for Soulful Dispensary, a cannabis retail dispensary with delivery located at 755 Farmers Lane, Suite 140, file number CUP 19-052, with condition 14B revised as per Senior Planner Adam Ross, and waive further reading.
Okay, do I have a second?
I can second, or Vice Chair Weeks,
Great.
whichever one you like.
Okay, I'll take you this time. Okay, so that resolution was moved by Commissioner Duggan, seconded by Commissioner Kalia. Commissioner Kalia, you want to start?
Sure. The application was really well done, and I can make all the required findings and will be supporting the project.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Duggan.
I too can make all the required findings, and I'll be supporting the project.
Commissioner Peterson.
I can make all the required findings, and you know, for anybody in the audience, particularly people that wrote in, the reasons I can do that, and I think I may speak for some of my fellow commissioners at least, is that to me this is this may be the farthest east cannabis dispensary, and even if it's not, it's putting into play the policy behind the cannabis ordinance, which was to distribute these, you know, throughout the city, specifically so there's not that induced demand and traffic. And so presumably, you know, cannabis ordinance working as intended, you now have a cannabis dispensary for at least this corner of Santa Rosa that will prevent, you know, the traffic. You know, people presumably can walk to it that are, you know, there's lots of housing around here. So I am not particularly concerned, especially with the traffic study performed with the traffic issue. You know, I think there was, you know, the objections to it being relatively close to Montgomery High School, which I understand, but for me is always put in context is there's a Lucky supermarket full of alcohol that the kids go to every day for lunch when school is actually in person. So I don't, you know, this is not anywhere near that kind of route. So I'm not really concerned with minors being exposed to it, especially with the sign ordinance. And with all of this, I think the thing is, this is a conditional use permit. So this application has to meet the conditions of the use permit. So, you know, the odor control, the security, all that sort of stuff has to be met throughout the life of the operation. So these are pretty stringent requirements to meet. And so I based on that, I can make all the required findings and will be supporting this project with the resolution as modified.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Okrepke.
Yeah, I can make all the required findings and will be in support of the project.
Commissioner Carter.
I can make all the findings that the proposal is consistent with the zoning and general plan and cannabis ordinance, and I'll be supporting the project.
Vice Chair Weeks.
I also can support the project and make all the required findings. And like Commissioner Peterson, I'm glad to see a dispensary in this quadrant. Last meeting, we approved a dispensary out on Middle Rincon Road. And so it's nice to see another one in this area so they're not all concentrated. And as Commissioner Peterson said, the intent of the ordinance was to have them throughout the city. So with the modification that Tanner Ross provided, I will be supporting the project.
Great. And I can also support the project and make all the findings. And I think our commissioners have covered the details of it. It is really good to see these starting to open on the east side. And this is particularly well placed. I mean, this is about as well placed as we could get one. And I think we'll be seeing more and more deliveries. So again, the traffic impacts, I think, are probably going to be even less than anticipated. So with that, the resolution was moved by Commissioner Duggan, seconded by Commissioner Collier. I'll ask our recording secretary to take our votes.
Definitely. As usual, we'll be going in alphabetical order, starting with Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duggan.
Aye.
Commissioner Kalia.
Aye.
Commissioner Okrepke.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Weeks.
Aye.
And Chair Cisco.
Aye. And so that passes with 7 ayes tonight. And that concludes this item. It also concludes our meeting tonight. I'll be adjourning to our meeting on October 22nd. And commissioners, rest up. We got a heavy load coming soon. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting and see you all soon. And good seeing you, Mr. Ross. Really good. Take care.
Thank you. You too.